Eldritch horror has always been a realm that has fascinated geeks of all ages. The idea that the universe is full of even greater and more evil forces than we can possibly know is a scary thought, but something that people wish to try and understand. Well, in this module from Christopher Waltz, we find out what happened to one wizard who sought to understand the unknowable and why it should truly remain a mystery as we go behind the screen. Greetings all, welcome to Behind the Screen. I am your humble DM, Tim, and today we're going to be talking about Christopher Waltz's Call of Atropus. The Call of Atropus is a one-shot adventure for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons characters leveled 5 to 7. It involves the group making a journey to investigate what has become of a wizard who created an observatory to study the stars, planets, Wildspace, and the crystal spheres in which they are contained. This observatory has recently grown silent after a comet that passes through the skies every 256 years has appeared back in the sky. And no one knows what has become of this wizard or the inhabitants of the observatory. What ends up occurring as the journey goes on is you discover a whole bunch of eldritch horrors, as well as the introduction to what could be potentially a much larger campaign. But this also works well as a single one-shot for Halloween, or just if you feel like taking a break from your regular campaign. But for now, let's dive into the introduction and we'll let the module speak for itself. Every 256 years, a bright red comet streaks across Taurelian skies. Different cultures call the astral body by their own names, but on Faerun it's called the Phoenix. Sages have studied the comet for centuries and offered competing views as to its origin. Some say it is a piece of the plane of magma cast forth from the elemental chaos. Others say it is slag from Moradin or Gorn's foundries. Less religious scholars believe it to be simply an errant piece of realm space with no greater meaning. They are all wrong. The comet is a piece of the undead primordial, an elder evil known as Atropus, the world-born dead. Few Taurelian scholars have delved deeply into the origin or agenda of Atropus, but those who have believe the being to be a mistake Ao the overgod made when creating the first deities, a stillborn god. The primordial drifts through realm space, heralding the rise of undead and eldritch horrors wherever it goes. Its true goals, if it even conceives of such things, are unknowable. Warlocks make pacts with Atropus in hopes of gaining a fraction of his power, and they all die babbling madmen. It is the year of the Phoenix. Scholars across Taurel have renewed their conversations around the comet and the workings of realm space. In darker corners, terrible and twisted things stir, awoken from long slumbers by the call of Atropus. Nearly 700 years ago, Eridanus Felihill, an acclaimed moon elf astronomer and wizard, built an observatory in the Cloud Peaks just north of Amn. He studied the movement of astral bodies and published a number of works that underpin contemporary works on realm space, the astral plane, and cosmology. As his curiosity grew, Eridanus began to ask questions concerning the creation of Tauril, the primordial plane, and even the gods themselves. Unlike some wizards who seclude themselves in hopes of obtaining secret knowledge to leverage into terrible power, Eridanus's goals were much more benevolent. He shared his knowledge freely and welcomed dissenting views. Still, he delved into places no mortal should. Eridanus discovered an arcane means to peer back in time. Any learned diviner could possess such an ability, but not to the extent of Eridanus. He claimed to have viewed eons past, before Taurel crawled with life. What he saw there, including Ao's folly in creating Atropus, rent his mind asunder. He feverishly worked day and night to conceptualize the knowledge he so quickly gained. Soon madness took him, the curse of his discovery obliterating his body. He rose again as a malevolent ghost burdened with aberrant knowledge, an Alip. The undead Eridanus slew his assistants and continues to haunt the observatory, waiting for an opportunity to share his forbidden knowledge. Please be advised, there are spoilers ahead. You have been warned. So, some pretty classic mystery elements there, as well as someone stumbling onto something that they really shouldn't have. The hook of the adventure follows a researcher from Candlekeep, Velithorel Severun, and I'm sure I'm getting all these names wrong. It's one of the problems with Dungeons and Dragons, you can never work out what the bloody names are. That's why I like the Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, it's just Jeff. She's been working on the mysteries of Realmspace and stumbles onto a whole stack of research that belonged to the wizard, but hasn't been able to find anything published recently. And so she hires a brother and sister dwarven adventuring group called Hammer and Anvil to escort her to the observatory to find out what actually went wrong. And when they don't return, that's where the player jumps into it. Or players jump into it, I suppose. And so, as you can see, there is great potential for a horror storyline, as well as a very intriguing mystery with this campaign. Right off the bat, one of the things that I really like about this adventure is that it takes monsters that you don't really find in other adventures. They come from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. They are the Alip, the Starspawn Gru, the Starspawn Mangler, and the Starspawn Seer. And the thing about these particular monsters from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes is they don't actually have art illustrations for them. So this allows you to really paint a vivid picture and let your players' imaginations fill in the gaps, really making the fact that they don't know what it is that they're dealing with, and also the fact that because these are such rare monsters to deal with right from the get-go, they're really not going to know what or how to deal with them. This is what I think makes challenging and exciting encounters. Because one thing that can happen if you've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for years is you learn the weaknesses of certain monsters if they keep coming up over and over and over again. And the problem there is that even though they may not have a character that has ever encountered one of these things before, the player has encountered these things before and knows instinctively how to deal with them. But even though they say they may not metagame, it's almost impossible not to metagame with a lot of these sort of monsters. So bringing in creatures that are really unknown quantities, even so that they don't even have illustrations, really, really helps. This book, unfortunately, doesn't have the stat blocks for those monsters, so you'll need to have a copy of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes to run it. However, it does have the main NPC stat block in here, as you can see. So it does give you that there. So it isn't as standalone as some of the previous books have been, but it is still a complete adventure. This one even comes with, unlike the Lost Laboratory of Qualish, actually comes with maps of the observatory. So you can really set the scene a lot more accurately than unless you don't want to have to worry about using the maps. But if you're into battle maps like I am, this will make you very, very happy. The other thing that really sells me on this campaign is the main subject matter, which is Atropus. And I love Atropus. Just the concept that of a monster that is, in fact, an entire planet. And Atropus is a planet. He's called a moonlet, but really, he's a planet. He's a planet that eats life. And he wanders through the galaxy looking for more life to eat. And if a small fragment of him has been left on the planet enough to entice someone to open a portal to bring through the aspect of Atropus, that is absolutely awesome to me. That's what I really, really love. But for the most part, there really isn't a great deal to say about this other than it is a really good horror mystery. Your players start outside the observatory, coming up to it, and right away they know that something is not right because they find the bodies of the two dwarven adventurers that were originally sent to go investigate this, along with the NPC character that you'll come across later on in the story. And then as soon as you get there, when you finally get inside the observatory, which is no easy task, the whole place is just completely wrecked and in disarray. Like something happened here, but it isn't immediately obvious what has happened here, and so it just lets the players speculate as to what has occurred. And then the evil starts coming, and they move up the floors, and the star spawns are there, and they begin to attack, and they have no idea what these creatures are, and they just start ripping them to pieces. And they find all of the wizards' followers, all of the scholars, these scribes, and they've all gone completely mad from trying to follow and keep up with his notes and notarize everything, as well as when the creatures started to appear, and they've completely ripped them apart as well. So you find the dead bodies, you're like, oh, what could have possibly done this? So it's a very short book, and unfortunately this is going to be a very short review because of it, but very, very, very cool. It essentially is you come in the front door and you just slowly work your way up the tower until you find the one of the people that went to find the wizard the first time has actually succumbed to the madness and has begun to conduct the ceremony to bring Atropus to the world. You've got to stop the ceremony. And whether or not your players stop the ceremony, you can leave it as a one and done. So hooray, they win. The comet of Atropus moves through the sector and will be back in another 256 years. Will the same thing happen again? Or maybe a small slither of Atropus made it through, and that can be the basis of an entirely new campaign. So the thing that I really like about this is just how versatile it is, how simple it is, and just how good it is, I guess, is really the best way to describe it. So very much worth the price of admission for this one. I'll put the link down in the description. It's from the DM's Guild again. But I'll end this little review by talking a little bit about Atropus, at least what I know about Atropus, just to wet your whistles, I suppose, and get you more interested in reviewing this one, in playing this one, sorry, if you should wish to do so. But in the Elder Evils book, this is I believe a 4th edition expansion that has all these eldritch horrors. There's the worm with legs, there's just gone completely blank on the other ones, but yeah, you have as like the first character or Elder Evil in this book, you have Atropus. And Atropus is the world-born dead. And the background of Atropus is that it is what was left over from when the gods were created. This was like the first being that ever came into existence, and it was lonely, and so decided to create other life and create the other gods by breaking fragments of itself off to create different elements to create different gods. But once it had done giving up all of its essence and all of its life in order to create these creatures, it really regretted doing it and now just hungers for life to get back what it is that it lost all those years ago, at least according to the Elder Evil's book. But you can really take Atropus and do whatever it is you want with it. It can just be where death came from. It can be the thing that he's going to be like the consumer of all. Like it is like the end. It's like the Omega, the end of all things. This creature will eventually consume all life in all realms. And one thing that I did in one of my campaigns is with realm space and the crystal spheres. Again, a quick explanation. In the Spelljammer setting, the realm space is just space, what we would call as space, or wild space as it is also known. The space between the planets, but every realm is contained within a crystal sphere. So, for example, if we're talking about the world of Torel, it is contained within a crystal sphere, like the entire solar system of Torel is contained within a crystal sphere that has all of its dimensional functions secured within it. So you've got the hells and the heavens and all of the outer planes are all connected together and tied to Torel and are contained within its own crystal sphere. And if you want to go to, say, the realm of Greyhawk, you have to exit out of the crystal sphere of Torel, and then you could travel through space and into the crystal sphere of Greyhawk, and then you would be in the world of Greyhawk, where the planet of Greyhawk is. And the same is said for, the Forgotten Realm. Oh, no, I suppose not the Forgotten Realm, but all of the other different places. Everything is contained within a crystal sphere. So what I did in my game with Atropus, because I used the Call of Atropus as a jumping on point to that element in the storyline, is that the crystal spheres were created to keep Atropus out. And if the crystal sphere was ever cracked or penetrated, Atropus would be able to come in and he would eat life on every single planet. And so that's obviously not a good thing. You don't want that to happen. And I managed to trick my players into accidentally pulling the pin that kept the crystal sphere active and letting him in. And then they realized far too late that what they'd actually done, because there was a lot of other stuff that they had to deal with as consequence from them pulling the pin. But once they realized what was actually going on, and my warlock also realized that her patron had suddenly become Atropus after all this time, they knew that they really had to put an end to this. And it really is a fun way of just, giving your party members something that, your players, something that is just so beyond the realm of what they can usually stop, beholders and dragons. Just something that is just so completely out of their league, and to make them just feel absolutely tiny. Because when it comes to Eldritch Horror, that's exactly what they are. So, like I said, check out Call of Atropus, absolutely worth the price of admission. Link will be in the description. Thank you all very much for joining me for this short episode of Behind the Screen. And please remember to like and subscribe, and join me next time where we delve into another adventure behind the screen.